morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome back to F3 Faith Family Focus. It's just me today. My dad is in the wings watching, of course. I hope everybody's excited for this show. It's going to be a fun one. We have some exciting things. We're going to do the announcements pretty quickly because today is going to be full of some good information. So I hope everybody has their Suggs mugs, hashtag Suggs mugs. We have those coming. They're going to be on the website soon, so let me pull up the picture of them so you guys have them. Let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love. Exciting stuff, plus Suggs mugs are on the back. We're going to have those on faithfamilyfocus.net for anybody who is interested. Also, we have our blogs up on the website, blogs, 3 blogs, as well as every single video so far, and any bios you need to know about your wonderful co-host, Shafer and Faith Suggs. I see everybody trickling in. Good morning, Buford. Good morning, everybody. I hope everyone has their Suggs mugs ready. Tune in, send me a wave, cool emoji. Just let me know you're trickling in. So we have an exciting show today, so let me dive in a little bit. We are going to talk about race on college campuses, which is an exciting topic. We have had a great series so far. Last show was the Year of the Black Quarterback, which was awesome. Some great positivity conversations and some cool feedback from a lot of our fans. So today is definitely going to dive into some cool stuff on campus, athletes and non-athletes, especially how to be Black on a predominantly white institution's campus, what it's like, what resources we need, any pushback, stuff like that. So I see you guys still trickling in. Good morning, good morning. And I'm just going to dive into our guests. We have some fun guests. We have about 4 today, so we're pretty active. We got Kyra Lambert. We're welcoming her back. She's been on the show twice, a little superstar. Kyra has 2 degrees. She's been in college for 15 years, and she's off to Texas to play with Vic Shafer. So it's very exciting for her last year. I'm joking. She's in her 6th year. That's still a lot. Let's show you guys Kyra really quick. Here's Kyra. Isn't she wonderful? Cutie patootie. Then we have a wonderful Clinton, North Carolina native, Michaela Boykin. She will also be in college for 80 years. But both of them are very resilient. Great story. And my most exciting part is Michaela Boykin has been a wonderful asset to her community recently. For those of you who are interested, please go look on Twitter. Follow the stuff she's been doing. She's has some great things going on. So I'll show you guys some pictures of Michaela. Here she goes right here. And she'll share some awesome stuff with you guys as well about what she's been up to. Third guest, Marvin Lloyd, went to school with us, graduated in 2018. It was like 3 years ago. 2 years ago? 3 years ago? 2018, whatever. And he now is in New York City with me. He's working in Harlem, awesome place. I think he's also doing special education. Nod your head, Marvin, in the wings if I'm right. Awesome. So he's definitely an angel, and he's going to have some awesome feedback. But Marvin is pretty exciting because he also does videography and photography on the side at www.marvinlloyd.com. For those of you who are interested, I have a couple photos. These are some shots he's taken around New York. So if you have a chance, please go check him out. He's very talented. And then, last but not least, the latest to the party. She is on the West Coast, woke up early for us today, Miss Jada Adams. Wonderful, cute little photo of her right here. Jada is from Irvine, California. She plays at Duke. Her and Michaela are both going into their senior year, which is crazy. Insane, actually. Jada and Kyra and Michaela all have a very similar injury, and they all have some great stories to share through their faith and their words, so it's awesome. Jada comes to us today. She's going to share some insight on what it's like to be a student on Duke University, and today's going to be an awesome show. So without further ado, let me bring our guest on to the show. Good morning, everybody. How is everyone?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you, Faith?
I'm just peachy, Michaela. You got a nice little view over there. Where are you at? What are you doing?
I'm in the backyard with my dogs. Had to let them get some sunshine. Well, I guess it's not sunny right now, but get some air going through their lungs or something.
For those of you who don't know, Michaela has a distinct accent. She probably don't even realize she got the accent, but it is hilarious. It's a hoot. All right, what you doing, old lady? What are you up to? Damn.
I'm currently in Austin. We've been working out all week and ready to go back to San Antonio for the weekend. So I'm chilling right now.
Jada, what you up to?
Well, I am a dog mom, so dealing with my new puppy, and then I got rehab in a couple hours. So yeah, that's what I got going on today.
She is a new dog mom. What's her new dog?
His name's Bander, and he's so cute.
MJ, what are you up to? Where are you at? Where are you residing? What's the news? I know me and you both can't go to New York just yet, but what's up?
Yeah, I'm back in Georgia. I'm teaching right now. So like online teaching meetings and stuff. So that's what I'm doing.
Bless you and the teachers in our community. I live for Marvin's stories about what goes on at school and what it's like to be a teacher.
Good
Um,
time.
so we might as well just dive in, guys. We all experienced going to a PWI as people of color, and I will say that it was a positive experience. I'm not going to talk completely negative. We're going to try to just kind of give people a window into what our experience was like at Duke, especially. So let's kick it off, Kyra. I know you're not at Duke no more, but can you talk to us about what were your experiences within the years of university? Just map out a little bit for people who aren't Dukies.
Yeah. Going to Duke was a culture shock to say the least. I come from a military background, so every school that I've ever been to was super diverse. Then
Right.
when I got to Duke, it was one of those times that I was the only black person in the class. I look around and nobody looked like me. So it gave me a new perspective on a lot of things. I had to learn how to navigate that space, which was kind of a struggle at first, but eventually, the more you like talk to people that don't look like you and get their experiences, you get to know that you have a lot more in common than you think. So
Right. Yeah, Michaela, can you kind of piggyback off that a little bit?
yeah, I would say kind of the same. But where I come from is kind of like I come from a background where it's just more a lot of I'm around a lot of black people. And when I got to Duke for the first time, it was kind of weird because I didn't see that many black people at all. It was kind of like the black people on campus were in like a one section, and everyone else was just like roaming around. So I had to like go out and actually find like my black friend group because if you didn't go search for them, then you probably wouldn't find them anywhere like just by passing. So that was kind of like my experience when I got to Duke campus.
Right. And MJ, what about you? Because those two are athletes, the three of them athletes, but MJ was not an athlete, even though he was at practice with us every day and participated in all our stuff. But MJ, what was it like for you in your 4 years?
It was interesting, but it was a little bit better than I expected it to be. Honestly, I had very, very low expectations as far as like what it would be, the culture like around like Black life would be. Um, at Duke, I my high school was very similar, like make up to Duke, but I playing basketball. Like most of my friends have always been predominantly like most of my friends have always been black. So I went to Duke. I found the same black friends. I joined a frat. So it was like I immersed myself in the black community. So I didn't necessarily venture out of that too much, but it was better than I expected, honestly.
Right. Can you kind of give us your mindset and thinking going into the decision to become part of the Greek community at Duke University?
So basically, Greek life has been it's part of my family. My mom's in a sorority; she's a Delta. My grandpa's a Kappa. My high school basketball coach was a Kappa. I got the Gates Millennium Scholarship, and a lot of people that helped me get that scholarship were Kappas. So going on the Duke's campus, like seeing it was good to like see black people, but black men doing well and trying to do positive things. And I already had like a bias for like joining the Kappa Alpha side, but the Kappas on campus at the time were cool and they looked out for us a lot. Didn't expect anything in return, so it was just really genuine. And like having black people, black guys, black men that look out for you and are with you. It's something that you can't really find that often in life, but especially like on campuses like Duke's. So
Yeah. No, it's understandable. Jada, why don't you give us some about what Jada Adams' years at Duke has been?
Um, so I live in Irvine, and there's not a lot of black people out here. So growing up, there's probably always like maybe two other black kids at my school, and then I was like the one mixed kid. And then yeah, and then when I went to high school, there's obviously a couple more black people there, but those kids only played sports, so that's how like
Mhm.
we all kind of knew each other. And I played for predominantly black club programs, so they were honestly the only black people I was really around when I was playing basketball. And then getting to college, it was kind of cool to see more black people on campus. I just wasn't used to it, and yeah, everybody has style. Like it's kind of cool. I was like, hey, like, you look like me, okay? Like, I can fit in here. So going to college is kind of cool to experience that. But growing up, there was only a couple black kids around me.
Right. And then Marvin, we'll kick it off with this conversation, just so we laid the land out, so people understood kind of what our own experiences were. Marvin, was there a debate for you or decision for you between the PWI versus HBCU situation? How do you view that in decision making for colleges?
I didn't. I only applied to Duke, honestly. That was the only school I applied to. That was the only school. When I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to go to Duke just because I wanted to. So I just made that happen. Essentially, I didn't necessarily. I didn't look at. It's not that I didn't look at HBCUs. I didn't look at any other school other than Duke.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had, like, there were a few other schools that I was looking at. If I didn't get into Duke, but I don't really understand the debate against, like, between the two, and like how one tries to cast it down on the other. It's very it's very childish, truly, um, because, like, it's a college education. Every experience is different, and there are definitely things that some schools have that others don't. There are definitely things HBCUs have that PWIs don't, and like vice versa. So I mean, you can't. I don't knock anyone for their decision to attend this college that they want to go to. Um, but once again, like, why don't knock other people for, like, I want to go to this school, go to that school. Like, it's what you want to do. It's your life. I'm not gonna down you for it. But I definitely think both are valuable. They both have their pros and cons.
Right. Kyra, what do you think? Because I know we're athletes, and the one thing I think if people have been watching and paying attention to Taylor Rooks, I don't remember who the athlete was, if you guys know the kid's name, but he said that he might as well just go to HBCU. And it was kind of an idea like, what if student athletes, start going to HBCUs? And what if top coaches like a Shaka Smart or somebody like that go to an HBCU? What changes in the culture of recruiting? Okay.
Honestly, I think it all comes down to money. It's that big allure with the PWIs and the big, state schools saying, we have all of this money. We can give you all of these resources. We have this alumni base. You're going to get all this gear, chartered flights, all of this other stuff, catered food. And at an HBCU, the resources just don't necessarily compare with those huge state schools with the big endowments.
Right.
And I think, like, from an athlete perspective, that's probably the main thing that, kids that, because we're not talking about kids that are our age. We're talking about like 17, 18-year-olds trying to make this decision. So they're not necessarily thinking long term. And the athletes that are going to go on to make the school the most money, talking specifically about men's basketball and football players, a lot of them, well, with men's basketball, if they go to a huge school, most of them aren't necessarily playing to stay for 4 years, right? So they're saying, yo, let me get the best experience that I can for this 1 or 2 years. And then everybody thinks they go into the league anyway. So, I don't know. I think it was Mikey, the one that plays on LeBron's son's team.
Yeah.
And yeah, he made a post that I thought was phenomenal. Just seeing that foresight
about, HBCUs will be on his list. And if high school athletes of that caliber are making decisions and actually taking visits, like they don't even got to go to the school. They just got to say, yo, I'm considering this. And just putting, the bigger schools on notice, putting them on watch, I think that it'll change the recruiting landscape a lot.
Right. And I think for me, I mean, Jada, Michaela, you guys can jump in on this, but what do you guys think for students who aren't going to come and play a sport, right? Do you think that more kids and more Black kids especially will go to these HBCUs if something like that shifts in the future?
I kind of say yeah to that. Just mostly because I like the people that I know that don't play sports in college that are Black, like there's just often like a big disconnect at like the schools that they're at. So I think like having more Black athletes that are at HBCUs, I think a lot of other Black people would like go there as well, just because like maybe they're more comfortable and that's what they like to see. But I kind of want to say yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, imagine if Zion had went to NCCU. Do you think NCCU's applications and admissions would have been a little different than the recent year they had without Zion? You know what I'm saying? I feel like we don't know what would happen, and I hope that something like this shifts because I'm all for players choosing to not just go to the big name schools, maybe bring the money to these HBCUs. But I think that definitely HBCUs will see a spike in a lot of enrollment and a lot more interest. Because where I went to school, high school, a lot of kids went to HBCUs. It was like a norm. And that was an idea that surrounded our community that you normally go to HBCU or you can go to Ivy, right? It's one or the other. And so I feel like if that culture that we had in our community kind of spreads a little more, we'll definitely see a change, especially. But the kind of like...
I know from my experience, I don't know if y'all had the same experience, but with my experience with HBCUs, whenever I was getting recruited back in the day, before I committed to Duke, it was like HBCUs, when they, like, we talk to each other, they would be like, oh, we already know we're not getting you. So it was kind of like they just let me go rather than trying to like force the option. So it's kind of like they weren't really an option anymore because they were telling me like, oh, we're basically saying that we're not good enough for you to come here, basically. So that's kind of what my experience with HBCUs, and that could possibly be what's going on now too. Like these HBCUs are like, hey, like these PWIs like Duke or like these other big time schools like Kentucky or places like that are like, oh, we offer them. So they're like, oh no, we just can't. There's no way we're going to compete against this big time school right here. So that's kind of like my experience with it. I feel like they didn't really give me a choice. It's kind of like they already pushed me to want to commit to like Duke or like these big name schools.
Right. And one thing that was really humbling for me in my past season, look who joins us. In my past, where I coach in the Northeastern Conference. And we had a game against NCCU this season, and we lost. And that was very humbling and kind of opened my eyes because it's not like the way we look at HBCUs often is like not the same level. Do you know what I'm saying? And because we're not very involved in that community when we're at these PWIs because we're so wrapped up in our own crap that we don't see that stuff's going on right down the street from us. And I think that kind of opened my eyes up to, it's not like HBCUs don't get the funding and stuff like that. Like they flew out to New York, they spent the weekend, like they like have the funding. It's just they need the talent. And I think Kay, you touched on it really well, is it's hard for HBCUs to draw these kids in, especially in North Carolina. That's interesting because we didn't have HBCUs. I don't know if we have HBCUs in Illinois. Probably don't. It's the Midwest. But that's what I'm trying to say is if they had the talent, if they had these kids like the Zions that want to take the turn and actually go make a name for themselves and kind of change the world a little bit, I think that would be really interesting. But Kai, can you dive a little bit into, we're going to take a detour. What was it like in your classrooms? You touched a little bit on it. How many Black kids were normally in your classes? Can you break down the class size at Duke? Can you just give us a little window into that?
Yeah, the class sizes at Duke are fairly small, depending on if you're taking like a big lecture or if you're just taking a smaller like seminar class. Typically, with the classes that I took, it was either just me or maybe like 2 or 3 out of like 30, 40 people that look like me. So it was interesting to say the least. I kind of forgot what your original question was. I'm not gonna lie.
MJ, can you talk to us a little bit about Kyra out about what it's like at Duke in these classrooms? And we're not talking AAAS classes. We're talking different classes.
Yeah. So like I said, it ranges. I mean, it ranges from roughly 12 people in like a seminar to 250, 300 in a entry level class for like a
Mm-hmm.
major. So I took like classes for like Econ 101, Chem 101. Those classes have like at least 200 kids in them. And in those classes, I mean, Duke, I mean, I think black people make up roughly 10%, 11% of Duke's student population. And it's very apparent in a lot of these classes. Some seminars, I'd be the only person. Maybe if I took it with like one of my friends, then we'd be the only two in there out of the 12. And then in a lecture, like a large lecture for like Chem 101 or Biochem or Econ 101, there would be a handful of black kids, um, max 10. Like, that was a stretch, honestly. And that's 10 out of like 200, 250. And it's very interesting. You get a lot of like people questioning whether or not that you're right, or ignoring your answer, and just to be told when the professor goes over the answer that you were right, and they were like, "Oh, well, blah blah blah." Like, so that happens fairly frequently, especially in like I noticed that happens more so in these STEM classes, like because I was pre med, so in like econ classes I took, or any pre med class I took, people will often like invalidate what your answer, and then you end up being right, and they just kind of look stupid.
And
But
that's a good point.
you can't go off on them. So
Yeah. That's a really great point. In the year, I'm just gonna pull this question off the dome. But Kayla and Jada, you guys are both in school now. Can you tell us a little bit? Do you feel comfortable speaking out in class? Have you been invalidated? Can you tell us a little bit about that? 'Cause I know you have.
Yeah, I mean, so my story, I was in a forensic psychology class, and my teacher was telling us about a case about this white lady that basically killed her daughter and didn't really get much jail time off of it. And he asked the question, he was like, well, why, like, why was she not found guilty? And I raised my hand in front of the 80 people that were in there, and I was like, because she's white. And he like laughed at me. There was a black professor, and he laughed and was, "Oh, because she's white." Yeah, no, that's not really the case. And then started talking about some other stuff, and somebody else raised their hand and like said something that had basically nothing to do with what you said. And I was just kind of like, you know, the world that we live in. These white, like, if you don't tell them the truth, like, that's the truth. That lady killed her child, and she is innocent because she's white. Because if she wasn't white, she would be in jail. We all know this. So I mean, there's that, and I mean, a lot of times I do feel like if I raise my hand or I say something that like somebody else in the class is gonna have something to say, or the teacher, like yeah, so it just goes back and forth.
Yeah. Okay.
For me, I'm not gonna lie, I feel very uncomfortable speaking out in class, so I try to avoid it unless it's like a participation grade or something. But it's more like whenever I talk, especially being a black athlete, it's like whenever I talk, all heads turn straight to me, like, oh, she's actually like speaking in class. Like it's kind of like very uncomfortable, and it can be frightening, and I can like mess up what I'm trying to say because like all eyes are on me because they're like shocked that a black athlete just spoke in class. Um, and as far as that goes as well, like I don't know, it's just like something with me, and I don't know, it's very uncomfortable to even think about because majority of my classes I don't really have a lot of black professors, so it's kind of like majority of your classes is white, and then you have like these white professors as well who don't really understand us, like us black people. So it's super hard for me to kind of deal with in class, especially being a black athlete, because I feel like that's a lot of pressure as well. Because a lot of like the stigma of black athletes are like we only got into Duke because we play sports. which is not the case. We had to have the grades. We had to meet all criteria to even get into Duke as well. So it's kind of like we got this little stigma on us that we're only here for sports. And whenever we talk in class or like try to even make friends on campus, it's kind of like, oh, they probably think that we're kind of stuck up or that we're not really educated and we're just really here for basketball. So that's what we kind of need to do, is just entertain people, which is not the case, because I know a lot of Black athletes who came out of their high school as top in their class, top in everything. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's like kind of uncomfortable, but for
Yeah,
me.
no, I can definitely relate with that. Michaela, you and I have been in AAAS classes together, and I always have said that those are the classes where we feel the most comfortable speaking
Mm,
out. Um, but there's also, I mean, there's the pressure in general as an athlete, in period, to speak out because you feel that people are thinking those things about you from the moment you step on campus. And it's very hard to approach these classes because you're around kids who are extremely smart, valedictorians of their classes, great ACT scores, SAT scores. So it is hard, and it's hard to get confidence in the beginning. Kyra, can you talk to us a little bit, because you're like the social butterfly. Can you talk to us about how you felt going into your first year and then how it gradually changed towards your last year?
Yeah. Going into my first year, let's see, freshman year on campus, I just kind of sat back and watched for a little bit. Like, I had to observe. And then once I felt comfortable, or once I got to know the people in the class, because like you said, I'm a social butterfly. So, like once I actually talked to people out of class or got lunch with them or stuff, I started participating a lot more in those spaces. And then going into my last year, I just didn't care. Like, I went to Fuqua, and that was a totally different culture shock than undergrad. But it was almost like everybody was kind of in the same position, but nobody was in my position, if that makes sense. Like, Fuqua was very international, so everybody was coming from different cultures, different places, different regions in the world. And again, I was like one of two Black girls in the entire program. So for me, I was like, well, nobody really knows me. I don't even know how they view Black people in their culture. I'm gonna just do me. And that's exactly what I did. So it was just that confidence. I think it went up each year and got to the point where I just didn't care.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about microaggressions that we have received on a PWI campus. Just a teeny bit. MJ, you can kick it off. Any of you want it while you think about it? I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah, I mean my first week was that experience I talked about in my econ class with people disregarding what I was saying, my answer. Also, once I was walking through like Equad from one of my classes, and this like white woman saw me and she held her purse closer, and I was like, this is really funny. Um, so I mean, and there are other things, but those two memories in particular are very like much so like ingrained in my mind. And I was just like, and they like they piss you off a lot, honestly. But you don't really know how to respond to them because it's kind of some things are. Um, it matters a lot how you respond to these things, even though it shouldn't as much as like what actually happens.
Yeah.
But those two in particular, yeah.
Michaela, Jada.
I was just gonna say, like, in classes, you can't, like, as a Black person, you can't have a debate with somebody and like be passionate about it without it seeming like you're being like overly aggressive and that angry Black person. And it's kind of like interesting to sit and watch because it's like, or even just to be a part of, like, you can't, there are just so many things you can't do. And if you start getting, you say something back to the teacher, because you're challenging the teacher what you're supposed to do, and people are looking like, why is she doing that? Why is he doing that? Like, oh, it's because they're Black and they're angry. Like, I just, yeah, it's just funny to watch. I don't understand it.
For me, I feel like one thing with me is y'all all know that I'm like the muscle woman of the world. and I don't have to lift a single weight for 5 months and I still be like toned. So whenever I walk into like a class, it's like I'm like the intimidator. And it's super frustrating because I try to avoid wearing clothes that shows like my arms and stuff like that because I don't want that image to be of me like I'm like intimidating someone. And that's what it can be came off as. I see a lot of people on campus will like literally stop and like even if I have like small shirts on, they'll stop and like say something about my arms, which is super like annoying and it low key hurts my feelings because I'm like, bro, like I can't even wear like girl clothes like that because someone's gonna say something about my muscles or be like say how like strong I am or automatically assume that I play sports or something because of it. And that's for me, that's something that's super frustrating. I don't like being an intimidator. Y'all know that I'm a sweetheart, like literally the kindest soul ever. But that image is something that I don't really like, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah, going off of what Kay said, one day I was walking by West Union and I had on a regular backpack, not the athlete backpack. I had on actual clothes that day, and like I think I actually like touched my head that day, like actually did my hair. I'm walking and somebody like it was this older white couple. They're like, "Oh, what sport do you play?" I was like, "How you like? Is it the way I walk? Is it because I'm black? Like do I just happen to be on this campus? Like I don't." But just I got that question a lot when I was wearing nothing that indicated that I was a student athlete. And it's like people assume that you're black on campus, you have to play a sport. And I have friends that got I guess judged the same way and they didn't play a sport. So it's just that preconceived notion in people's heads. And then also in group projects, there were so many microaggressions. Like we'd be in a group project and people would be divvying up the work and they like automatically say like, oh, you can just do this part. And they'll give us like the easiest part in the project. Like, no, I'm capable of doing the whole project by myself. But if y'all want to participate or contribute, y'all are more than welcome to. So
There's been times where people have literally erased my entire PowerPoint. Like, oh, like that was the worst thing ever. Like devoted my time into making this PowerPoint, and this guy went back and erased everything and redid the whole thing. It was like, oh, like I like it better this way. I'm like, what do you mean? It just took me like 2 hours doing this, and you just erased the entire thing. Like it's not okay. It's not okay.
We had a game, and I had a project to work on with this kid, and he was like, "Oh yeah, come to the library." So after the game, I sprint to the library. I didn't even eat anything, and I'm working on this paper with him for 3 hours. I do my part. I get in. I get out. I come back the next day. Nothing. Nothing that I wrote on that paper was there, and I was so angry, but I just like was so tired that I didn't even care. I was like, you know what? Is this what you want? This is another day for me right now. I'll handle this another day. But I was so mad because I was like, why? Why? Or if you're an athlete, they just automatically assume that you're stupid. And when you're in group projects, they don't give you anything. Like at first, like freshman year, I was kind of like, that's work for me. Like I don't care. But like now, I'm like, wait a second. Are you guys doing it to become stupid? Like I'm like, my grades are good. I got a better grade than you do in this class. So it's like, it's frustrating. You can't fight, man.
Right. And then when MJ comes up, I want to ask him this, but Kyra, you can answer it for him. What would you say is some advice on how to handle that as a Black student at PWI who is constantly kind of dismissed in a way?
Mm-hmm. I would say speak your minds. And by speak your minds, I don't mean like always be the loudest person in the room, right? I mean like don't bite your tongue. If you have an opinion, share it. And if people don't like it, then that's a conversation that, you know, might actually make both of y'all's perspectives grow. So I would say mainly just speak your mind, and then also like surround yourself with people that one don't look like you, but also people that are going to support you in that. So in every class, and I don't know if this is extra, but in every class, I knew who like my allies were, if that makes sense. So like when when they said something, I backed them up, or when I said something, they backed me up. So just like know who those people are too.
Right. And MJ, I don't know if you heard the question, but it was what advice or, advice would you give to people on how to handle those type of situations? He's froze again. Well, Michaela and Jada, now that you guys are, oh wait, he's back. He's back. Okay, go, MJ, go. Jada, why don't you answer for him?
Yeah, I was in an education class, and we were, talking about how basically like black kids don't really get the same education as white kids, and you know
Mm-hmm.
how like with service learning, people always want to give back to their communities, right? And it's kind of like that white savior. And I made a comment in class. I said, well, does everybody why does everybody assume that if you're giving back to your community that you're trying to be like that white savior? So there are people that genuinely feel like their communities help them be the person that they are, and they want to give back and help them. And um, so I made that comment, and all the white kids in the class just kind of like looking at me. And so after that, it was kind of like the only comment I made because clearly nobody else had anything to say. And my teacher looked at me afterwards and he was like, "Why don't you talk more? Like you have good things to say." And I just kind of looked at him and I was like, because these kids aren't ready for what the real world is. They're not ready to hear what actually happens because they've never experienced that. Most of these kids in here, besides I think there's like two other black kids, didn't like they've never had to really struggle in their life. They didn't know how to struggle with their education or things like that. They probably had tutors for their SAT and all that. So after I kind of had that conversation with him, I thought to myself, I was like, I should start talking more because even though like they're not ready for that, I'm ready for that conversation. So it's just about like educating other people. But like Tyler said, like if you have something to say, say it. But you have to be confident in what to say.
Right. And MJ, why don't you go ahead? Because Jada just said to accept and try to understand where people come from. Kyra said to speak out. What do you think?
What I think is, so I can hear you. What I think is what?
What do you think of for advice for kids who are trying to navigate these areas when they get dismissed in group projects or anything like that?
It's don't take it personally. It's not you. That person has things they need to work on. They have places where they need to grow. What you say is valid. Like you should be heard. Um, and like someone will listen to you. The right people will listen to you. I mean, it shouldn't happen, but don't take it personally. That's something I've tried not to do is take things personally, especially like growing up in Georgia. I'm around a lot of racist things and people, and anytime I go anywhere, I get looks. It annoys me, but I don't take it personally. That's the best thing. That's the best way I got through it, honestly.
Right. And Michaela, I kind of want to use you a little bit. You have been really great in the recent weeks on speaking out, using Twitter, stuff like that to use your platform and let people know and educate others. Can you start us off with what it's like dealing with politics at Duke University or at PWI, where kids come with different and more conservative views or just are not educated on what's really going on around you?
Yeah, that's something that Black Duke is experiencing right now. It's a lot of people who are their views. They don't really understand what's going on, and it's kind of troubling because um, it's like we shouldn't have to be the ones that educate you. They should be able to educate themselves on what's going on because we're actually living through the experience. Like I saw some things on Twitter that was saying like it's a privilege to be able to just educate yourself rather than opposed to actually experiencing what's going on right now. But with Duke right now, it's a lot of people who don't understand. And you would think that they're 19 to 21 years of living that they would at least have a concept of what's going on. But in reality, they don't because they didn't have anyone who actually told them like, hey, racism is real or like Racial injustice is real, police brutality is real, things like that. People haven't went to them and told them like this is actually a thing, and you need to actually adapt to the Black situation when you're around them on campus. But yeah, it's a big situation going on right now because people have been posting like racial things on Twitter, TikTok, things like that, which is causing a lot of tension within the Duke community. But I mean, as far as me, I would just say that they need to educate themselves and they need to find ways that they can help and be an ally, opposed to it being forced. If you want to help the Black community, that's one way you can help is by genuinely, reaching out to someone, not reaching out because someone told you to, or because you dug yourself into a hole which you can't climb out of right now. So that's one thing I would say with what's going on right now. I'm trying to use my voice as a way because, I have a lot of followers on all social media accounts. And that's one way that I can express my voice. And I know a lot of people have heard my songs, my freestyle that I've done. It's something that I created because it was something that I was feeling in the moment. When I was writing it, I was just feeling in the moment. And I also feel like a lot of people, especially white people, could listen to the song because they love the Black culture. And it's something that if I was to, when I made the song, it's like, okay, white people can actually understand what I'm saying because they enjoy the Black culture. And it's something that they can actually listen to because a lot of white people listen to all of our hip hop songs, R&B songs, things like that. And I'm like, well, if they're not going to listen to us when we're just speaking, maybe I should put it into a song, and they're able to actually, understand and listen with the beat and things like that. And I feel like a lot of people recognize the song and they're actually willing to, at least for me, I know a lot of white people are willing to go educate themselves. I've seen a couple people watching. I know y'all seen a Netflix documentary series that talks about that has like displayed all the Black history movies, and I've seen a lot of white people going up there actually watching the movies, especially like the Malcolm X movie. I think the 13th Amendment, things like that. So yeah, that's one thing I did, and recently with my community, I feel like for me it starts with my community. We can't grow unless it happens within like a select community, and for me, I feel like me and a couple of my friends, we did this like little event on, I think it was last Saturday, and we basically got a lot of donations. People sent in donations willingly, and they helped us. We fed over 100 people. We gave small Black businesses the opportunity to basically promote and network with other small businesses to get their name out. And I know a couple of the businesses made a lot of money off of it. They thrived. And there was also some Black businesses which kind of upset me because we're doing this for free. We're letting vendors come out here for free and just market their products and things like that. And a lot of Black businesses didn't show up. So I feel like they kind of missed out on that opportunity because a lot of the Black businesses that came out, they actually thrived off of that event because it was so many people that kept coming in and out. But the biggest thing was we wanted to have unity within our community because it's important for us to unite as a whole. Because at the end of the day, we all have to live in America together. We can't get by that. So with my community, I feel like if we mess well together right now, that we can, try to tackle things within our community that, will change like things, how the police view us, how things like that. And then hopefully it can spread across the country. So kind of my perspective on everything.
Yes, proud of you, girl. We are extremely proud of you. Kyra, can you kind of piggyback off that a little bit? But can you give us a little bit about, I don't know if Michaela and Jada were in school at the time, but MJ and I were in school with you when Trump was elected. Can you kind of give us, just tell us Kyra's experience of what it's like to be at a PWI when that all went down?
So I remember when the actual election was happening, we were all at Lene's house and we were watching like the votes come in on the screen, and at first it was just kind of like jokes, like, okay, like he's not really about to get elected. Like it was literally like, how did he get in this position? This isn't actually gonna happen. To complete silence and distraught when the final votes came in. That next day was rainy. It was gloomy. And I think it was a reflection on how a lot of people felt knowing that he got elected. I was in an environmental class, and my environment's hurt right now, but that whole class was just like airing their grievances with the election, and that you knew the people in the class and the people on campus that actually voted for him, because
Yeah.
they were walking around super proud and super happy that day, and a lot of people weren't. But in this climate and seeing, it's 4 years later, and it's kind of, in, I don't want to get super political, but in my opinion, um, how do I say this politically correct? I don't know how to say it politically correct, but in my opinion, people really just need to do their civic duty and do their parts in this upcoming elections.
Yeah, and MJ, can you give us a little insight on how important it is for college students to go out and vote?
It's really important. Just because there's such a large voice, especially in like a lot of communities that vote in ways that are against a lot of people's right to be, to live well. I know especially North Carolina, like it was big for Duke students to vote, because a lot of them claim and they didn't vote for him. So like there was a large percentage of people that went blue, and that helps a lot, especially in districts that are like gerrymandered, and that have been constructed to pull votes for red, for Republicans, and for Trump in that election in particular. So it's really important because a lot of people aren't that educated about certain topics, and that goes for like even Duke students. But
Yeah.
it helps when people make decisions that are the most educated and the best for everyone, instead of just the best for a select group of people. So
Yeah. And Michaela, can you kind of give us an inside scoop on what your plans are um, with Duke Women's Basketball within your team, with your teammates? Has there been discussion about how we can um, go out and vote? I know our program at LIU, we're going to take the day off and take the kids to go vote, go learn how to do everything. Because one thing that is my biggest criticism with college and universities is not enough education for these kids to understand what their vote means, where they go vote. So can you kind of give us an inside scoop the best you can on what you guys are planning to do?
Yeah, so with Duke women's basketball, I've been talking to a lot of people, and we've been talking about how important it is to vote. I feel like with my team is we kind of get lost up in the athletic world, and we don't really explore other options. And I feel like that's a big thing that we overlook as a team, and we need to start doing more as far as voting, as far as getting out into the community, doing more things. I've actually talked with Kate. I don't know if a lot of you probably know Kate, but we talked about actually joining with other Black organizations on campus, trying to find time to like do community service events, things like that with the Black community, because majority of our team is Black. And we also talked about doing more things for low income Black families, Black businesses, things like that, kind of trying to like contribute to that, because like I said, we have a overly populated Black team, but that's something that I feel like is important for us, because we are surrounded by a lot of white people with Duke athletics. It's just the truth about it, and sometimes it can be hard on us being a Black athlete, because if you think about it, we don't really have we're not really involved in the Black community, but at the same time, we're like wrapped up in our own community, and we need to be more expressed with the Black community, do more things with them. That way that they know that we have them, and we know that they have us. But yeah, I think those are kind of the steps that we're going to be taking once we get back on campus soon, doing more things like that for the Black community as a whole, opposed to just, sticking solely to like the white community, doing things for like the white kids, things like that. But that's kind of what we talked about.
Right, and that's awesome. I don't know what our kids are thinking, but I think they're around the same area. A few things I need you guys to give some college coaches or coaches in general who are looking for advice on how to speak with their athletes during this time period. What's important for you guys right now, going through this all? The best way you can describe it. Jada, do you want to kick it off? Because I know I've spoke with you about this.
Yeah. Honestly, the best advice that I can give is to just hear your players out, especially like your black athletes. Hear them out. Hear what they have to say. Listen to them. Um, and support them, make them feel supported. And I mean, if you have questions, you can ask them. If you don't understand something, you can ask. But I think right now is not the time to be silent and have your team feel like they aren't supported, because at the end of the day, when people sign, they're signing for life. They're signing for how many years they're going to be at your college for, which means that they need to feel like their coaching staff, their teammates, that everybody has their back. So I just feel like as a coach, it's your job to make sure that your players are educated, that they know what's going on, and that they feel safe. Because if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel supported, then I mean, how are you supposed to win basketball games? How are you supposed to, when you come to college, your coaches are supposed to have you leaving as better people, right?
Yeah.
And better humans. So if you can't help your players be that better human that they're gonna be, I feel like you failed.
Yeah. Kyra, what do you think?
Going off of what Jay said, I actually have thought about this a lot. Being in like a new program, a new system. The first thing is your athletes shouldn't have to reach out to you. Like, you should be reaching out to your athletes. Second, with a sport that is predominantly white coaches, male and female, this, if you like, even if you don't, because I think a lot of coaches, and I'm not talking about any one particular institution, I'm talking about multiple across the nation. How do I say this? If you don't necessarily care about the issues going on and you're just putting out statements to check a box, think about it from a recruiting standpoint. And like, I'm really like just trying to be very honest and real. So like, if I'm a recruit, especially a black recruit, and I'm coming in and I'm looking at colleges to go to, my first question is, what did you do during this George Floyd Black Justice era to support your team, to help your team, and to make a difference in the black community? Because essentially that's what it's going to come down to. And that's how, like, don't just sit at my table and talk to my parents saying, hey, I'm going to treat her like a daughter, I'm going to take care of her. And when this comes up, you didn't do anything to support me or anything to actually help my community. Because that means like actions speak louder than words. So that, and then also, I have one more point, but yeah, as coaches, just honestly, like, I would say, like, educate yourself, but coaches are in their like 50s, 60s, some like younger ones 40s, Reenie's in their 30s. But if you don't stand with me and you don't stand with this community that's literally paying your salary, then that's intentional ignorance, in my opinion. You don't really care. And when you say you don't, actually take a visible stance, whether that is donating to a cause, whether that's doing what Michaela's saying and like taking your team to vote and like actually trying to make a difference in your players' lives, then in my opinion, you're not standing with me, and you're not, like, silence is deafening. It's literally deafening. So that's my opinion. Okay.
And Kay, in our last 2 minutes, we have 2 minutes left. Since you are our queen of using her platform right now, can you please tell us how PWI Black students can use their privilege, because they have any form of privilege they have with their situation? How can we use it?
Yeah, I feel like we have all the resources. It's up to us as athletes to be assertive and go to these higher authorities and tell them, like, look, this is what needs to happen. It's not right now in this situation, or even here on out, it's not about what we want anymore. It's what we need as Black athletes, as a Black community. We're not really sold on any of the wants and things like that. It's something that is a necessity now. this is real. What's going on is real, and we have all the resources to actually push what we want, like push the action, force the action. Especially being at these PWIs, we have limitless money, like we have limitless resources, and it's just something that we need to, just tell them like this is what needs to happen. It's not what we want anymore. It needs to happen for our sanity and for like our community. So that's pretty much what I got on that, honestly.
Yeah, and MJ, can you give us a little bit more to carry on Michaela's point, just for as Black students at these PWIs?
I just want to make sure that Black people at these schools understand that all Black people need equality. All black people, like, it doesn't matter whether they're poor, been to jail, like aren't educated, like we all need it. And we can't look down on people because they didn't go to this school or that school. And we have to support our people while we're trying to, fight this system. I definitely see a lot of things coming from schools, like people from schools like Duke. They're very elitist, and it's not going to help anyone in the long run.
Right. Well, thank you guys so much. Today was an awesome show. I've been getting texts and my phone's been blowing up that people have loved it so much. You guys have all been really great and great, giving us some really great points. So thank you guys for joining us this wonderful F3 Friday.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right. And everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you again this Friday morning. Once again, we're praying for all of those out there fighting to have their voices heard. And to our people that are silent, we pray you gain the courage because we see you and we want you to open your eyes and mouth because you are in power and position in the society. We're back on Monday with another great show. My dad will be joining us. I know you guys missed him. We are on Amazon Fire, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Apple TV, and most importantly, out of Phoenix, Arizona, our key platform, E360 TV. And again, this is Faith Family Focus, where we want to use our faith as a vehicle to help heal and sustain the path to strengthen the family core. And we want to leave you with our new slogan: let go, let God, let go, let faith, let go, let love. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy and have a healthy and safe Friday.